Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by Danny Hernandez. Danny, what's up?
Oh, Matt, nothing. Super depressed. How are you?
Yeah, me too. Thank God it's
Yeah,
hockey season.
I don't have. Thank God it's not even Ninja Warrior season. I have nothing. I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
Rangers won their first game in their first game, so that was good. Jets are 3-2. See, all my sports teams that I actually really care about are doing fine.
are you saying you don't really care about
No, I'm in
the
denial.
other?
Shh, shut up.
Okay, yeah, no, me too, me too. I'm glad no one else is here, honestly. but yeah, it's bad. It's not a fun time, but maybe we can watch wrestling to take our mind off things. I don't know. I don't know if you're
Also,
into that kind of thing.
yeah, we're obviously here once again to discuss AEW Dynamite, which was in Toronto this week, and it was great. But before we even get into anything, fuck Excalibur and Tony Schiavone taking shots at the Mets.
Oh
Fuck
my
you
god,
guys.
yeah, the
Fuck you
fuck, bro.
guys. You are now heels. Fuck both of you.
What did that have to do with being in Canada, man? Like, what the hell? I couldn't even understand what Tony said. Like, I rewinded twice. What did he actually say?
It was something about like Taz was doing some like trying to like legal some shit. I think it was after the smart mark thing, right?
I believe so.
And Shivani was like, "Oh, so you're a Mets fan and a lawyer," and I thought Taz was gonna kill him.
Oof.
Excalibur just made reference to the Mets being as bad as the Maple Leafs, which is just not true, but whatever. Anyway,
Whatever.
like we said, we are here to discuss AEW Dynamite. Also, obviously, I am in a different space this week. I have a road game, so I will be back home next week. Let us start with the main event, which I think we are all very, very happy about. Orange Cassidy versus Pac for the All Atlantic Championship. Obviously, this comes after their match for the same title at Grand Slam, and I do believe Trent fought Pac for the title on Rampage last week. And in both of these instances, Pac has been using the hammer to ring the ring bell to pick up victory. So Pac comes out really strong early, and he even goes along with some of Orange's taunts, doing this, the very soft kicks and stuff. But doing that allows Orange to sucker him in, and Orange hits a drop kick, knocking Pac to the outside. Orange goes for a tope, but Pac ends up catching him and hits a vicious Falcon Arrow onto the floor. And then as we come back from commercial break, Pac had just hit a tombstone pile driver on the ramp. So a lot of early damage done to Orange Cassidy. Orange, very smartly, I thought, just rolls down the ramp, which was both in character and brilliant. And he has a bit of struggle getting from the end of the ramp to the ring, but he's able to get in as right before the 10 count. Pac immediately jumps on OC and locks in a brutalizer, but Orange is able to pretty much just wriggle his way to the ropes and get out of it. Pac then goes to the timekeeper's area to grab the hammer once again, but the ref stops him. And while Pac is distracted, Orange Cassidy is able to hit a DDT to the outside. He rolls Pac into the ring. We have a tilt-a-whirl DDT, an orange punch, and a cover, but Pac ends up kicking out. Orange again goes to the top rope, and Pac steals a slow roll and goes out to the apron. Orange gave him a thumbs up for that. Orange then went for a drop kick, but Pac catches him, and when Pac goes for his move, Orange is able to counter and hits a beach break on the apron. So after that, Pac recovers. He locks in another brutalizer, but Orange is able to roll him over into the ropes. Pac breaks, once again goes for the hammer, but somebody stops him, and it's Danhausen in a wig and a mask. Danhausen curses him, gets punched in the face for his troubles, and when Pac turns around, the referee is once again there to take the hammer from him. Remsburg, the ref, takes the hammer. Pac runs to the ring and grabs another hammer from underneath the apron, jumps back into the ring, is lining up Orange Cassidy, and but Orange literally beats him to the punch and is able to hit an orange punch. Cover 1-2 kick out. So after that, Orange finds the hammer on on the apron, on the ground, whatever. Fucking, he picks it up and is going to use it for revenge for both himself and Trent, but Remsburg is able to talk him out of it. And as Orange Cassidy walks him down and hands him the hammer, Pac rolls up Orange, grabs the tights, but Orange Cassidy is able to kick out. They both get up. Orange hits not one, but two more orange punches, pins Pac, and becomes your new All-Atlantic champion. So, Danny, this is obviously 2 years in the making. I think they said at the beginning of the match that this rivalry goes all the way back to Revolution 2020, which was Orange's coming out party, in my opinion, when everyone's, including people like JR, finally started getting it. So I am thrilled. I'm sure there are plenty of people who think this might have been a couple of weeks late, but either way, Orange Cassidy is finally champion in AEW.
Oh my God, weeks late. This is fucking years later. You kidding me?
That too.
I would argue that, like you said, Revolution 2020 was his coming out party, but not in this. He was already over, like how one of the most over people in the company at that point, but that solidified it to anyone who didn't know him previously. And I still think that was one of the best matches in AEW history. And I don't even think I'm being hyperbolic by saying that.
I don't think so. I watched it back a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Once in a while, I reminisce fondly about that match and think, you know what, I'm gonna watch it. But I'm so thrilled. I am so happy. I wish this was at the show we were at, or I was at. We weren't at this.
I was not able to make it.
Yeah. I wish this was at the show I was at. But, you know, I get it. He's from Canada. I don't think anyone knows that really, but like
they put the American flag behind him on the graphics, which was weird. He's not from anywhere. He's from wherever.
Yeah, which could be all of Atlantic for all we know. But
I mean, he does wear the Canadian tuxedo, so I guess he's just automatically granted citizenship in that.
There we go. You remember how like last decade and the decade before, shitting on Canada was just like a running joke amongst society, like in like several sitcoms and everything. It was just like a running joke that's like no one knows how it started, but everyone just accepted and partook in. But anyway, the match.
So the Canadians are pretty funny there, eh?
I mean, they are, and they could take a joke apparently because they haven't revolted against us or anything. But
invaded.
You know, they used to have amazing chemistry. They work so well together, and there are so many people who will work well with Orange Cassidy because his gimmick will work well with anyone who takes themselves too seriously, which is like half of all wrestlers because they're weirdly egotistical in certain ways. But since these two are the original, this was OC's first real feud. It's just nice to see it. And maybe this wasn't the best of their three matches, but it doesn't matter. Pac pulling out some of Orange's moves. Fantastic stuff. I'm such a fan of this. I'm so glad he finally has a title. To be honest, that's all I care about. The match could have sucked and I still would be fucking happy right now. But it just happened to not suck, so that's even better. But the right person won. Finally, this is the most important title in the company now. This title has been saved. I care about it way more than the TNT title. Are you kidding me? Get out of here with that garbage title. The world title, pretty good, but I don't care. It's not Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy versus Mox needs to happen again. Keep doing it. Do it forever. That's another person who would mesh so well with Orange Cassidy. The women's title, I like Toni Storm. I seem to be the only one on the pod willing to defend her, and you too, obviously. But
I was gonna say, what the fuck?
Not even close. It's an interim title, so it's not even close. TBS title, it's on Nyla Rose right now. Not really, but it is. I
was so confused by that.
So get out of here with that. I know. I think I saw her. No, I think I read a headline about her taking it, so I knew of it. Yeah. But anyway, we'll get out of here with that. Trios titles. Who the fuck are the Trios champions? I know one of them was in the main event of the show for the match we're talking about, but get out of here with that. Orange Cassidy finally has a title. All is right in the world. Maybe this company has hope after all, right?
especially after the other title match tonight, which we will get to later. Yeah, I'm glad they were able to bring us back in because we were hurting there for a minute. And now Orange, like you said, all is right with the world. Orange Cassidy is a champion in AEW. Quite frankly, I don't have much more to add to that than what you said. I think you said it perfectly. I want to add more, but the match was great. I think you were right. It probably wasn't the best of their matches. It's going to be really difficult to top that first match in general, but it was still really good. I did like the story with the hammer, especially as it's played out over the last few weeks. So that was cool. And yeah, it's just all around good stuff. You know, as you mentioned, they have always had good chemistry because not only does Pac take himself too seriously, he takes himself the most seriously out of anybody. That's his entire gimmick is fuck you. I don't care. And Orange Cassidy's gimmick is I don't give a fuck. So
and if you're not
perfect
gonna
clash of people.
If we're not gonna end the show with a cliffhanger, you end it with a feel good moment. And I don't know what's better than a guy winning a title in the country he may or may not be from.
Yeah, it was great. So I was very happy with all of that. All right, let's move back up to the top of the show where we started with the newly all elite Renee Paquette welcoming everybody to AEW Dynamite. And before we get into everything else, I am thrilled she is on Dynamite and with AEW. Obviously, she is married to Jon Moxley, so this always seemed like something that was going to happen. But it's great that she's there. I'm looking forward to any and all things that she does for this company because I think she said she wanted to do something new. So I don't think she's going to be relegated just to doing, backstage interviews like she did for most of the night tonight. So it's really good to see her there. And like I said, I look forward to see what she ends up doing.
I'm hyped she's there. Good for her. Good for her. Why not? Right? Why not have some fun? No matter what she does, she'll still have her podcast. She can still do whatever she wants because unless she's gonna wrestle, which you know what, I'm just gonna put it out there right now. Saraya and Renee versus Britt and Reba, and there we go. And then Renee can pin Reba or Rebel if you like. But yeah, there we go. But yeah, pumped she's there. Smart to do it in Canada. She feels like a big deal. So interviews by proxy will feel like a bigger deal. And whatever else she does is a bonus. Even if she went on commentary, you know what? I'll defend Renee. She wasn't great on Raw. She was good in NXT. And also it's hard to be good on Raw when you have Vince screaming in your ear.
I was about to say, yeah. I think that threw her off. I wouldn't hate for her to get another show like Talking Smack, like some sort of studio show like they used to have. I saw somebody on Reddit suggest maybe she kind of, takes over what Brandy was doing with Shot of Brandy, but with cooking because she has a cookbook and just have wrestlers come and, make food and interview them like that. There's a lot of possibilities for her. I'm sure she'll find something great to do. And it'll be a lot of fun seeing what she does. But let's get in back into the show here. So after Renee welcomed everybody to Dynamite, she introduced Christian Cage, and she asked him what it's like to be back in Toronto. And he says, as the face of Canada, it is great to be back. He then guarantees Luchasaurus will win. A guarantee as strong as the Maple Leafs losing in the first round of the playoffs, which was my favorite sports my favorite sports reference of the night because two of the other ones sucked. As I mentioned before, Excalibur then takes a shot at the Mets, which pissed me off. So Christian went to commentary. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy come out, and after a hot start from Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus turns the tide and pulls out Chekhov's table. He then dominates through the break until Jungle Boy is able to go for a tope suicida, gets caught, but then turns a powerbomb attempt into a Hurricanrana and sends Luchasaurus into the post. Jungle Boy then fights Luchasaurus up to the apron, and after a series of strikes, he hits a sunset flip over the ropes and sends Luchasaurus through the table. This causes Christian to leave the announce desk and distract Jungle Boy, allowing Luchasaurus to do a sit-up, and he regains the advantage. Eventually, we find Luchasaurus can't hit chokeslam because of all the damage that Jungle Boy had done to his right arm. So he hits one with his left arm, and because of the fact that it's, I guess, his weaker arm, Jungle Boy is able to kick out. Luchasaurus then puts Jungle Boy across his shoulders but Jungle Boy counters and hits a crucifix bomb, but Luchasaurus kicks out of that. Luchasaurus then puts Jungle Boy up on his shoulders like he used to carry him in to the ring. Excuse me. But Jungle Boy then hits a nasty Poison Rana and a kill switch, and Luchasaurus kicks out again. Jungle Boy then goes in for the snare trap. Luchasaurus is able to get to the ropes. And then Christian holds Luchasaurus' hands on there, preventing Jungle Boy from dragging him back in. Jungle Boy, who actually they were announcing as Jungle Boy Jack Perry again, so I think I'm kind of glad they went back to that side note. But yeah, so Jack gets out of the ring to go after Christian, and when he returns, he gets caught, choke slammed off the top rope, slammed off of Luchasaurus' shoulders, and Luchasaurus picks up the win. So, Danny, the faces won. How do you feel?
It feels good. You didn't beat the babyface in the babyface's manager's hometown, so that's good. That's really smart. Real quick question though, unrelated. Is Excalibur Canadian?
I do not know, actually. I genuinely don't, because I always kind of figured he was from Cali because he pretty much runs PWG, but I will look as you continue to break down your favorite faces win.
It just feels good, to see the guy who was held down in the tag team win over the guy who was holding him down. And it's all around a feel good. It's a feel good moment. Luchasaurus has done a lot to change, to revamp himself. He dyed his mask black. He got a new entrance music. He has changed his presentation, whereas Jungle Boy has done nothing. He hasn't even gone through puberty yet. He's doing no changing whatsoever. So it's nice. And you know what? Of course, Jungle Boy is the heel. That's why he worked over a body part for the whole match, because he's like, I'm a fucking heel. I'm gonna injure you because I can't just fight you one-on-one. Did you find out if Excalibur is Canadian or not?
Yes, he is not. He is actually from Detroit, which, fun fact, is north of parts of Canada.
Detroit, get out of here. Oh, I'm sorry. What are the Tigers doing? The hell,
not playing well.
Not playing at all. I mean, neither of them much right now, but that's okay. We'll move on. Anyway,
let's go Rangers.
They were in Canada. Why were they making fun of the mess? The Blue Jays lost. Dropped a
somebody did mention the fact that the Blue Jays,
Christian did on commentary. Fucking what? They're in Canada. Just talk about that.
I think the first one here with Excalibur was that Taz pretended to play dumb as to the Maple Leafs losing in the first round all the time, and Excalibur was like, "Oh, it's like if the Mets get knocked out of the wild card," and Taz was like, "What the fuck, dude?" That was such an unnecessary shot, and it was. Fuck you, Excalibur.
You know what? I hope there's a report tomorrow that a fight broke out backstage at AEW. Because Taz is right. Taz is in the right.
After AEW at Dynamite on Wednesday, backstage, Excalibur was pushed in the face by Taz following comments involving the New York Metropolitans.
Oh God, I would love it. Taz would be the biggest babyface in the world. But anyway, I'm a fan of this. I think Luchasaurus needs the win way more right now, and I don't like constantly beating people and saying, oh, they can take the loss, but I think Jungle Boy can take the loss right now because I think the feud dictates that he takes the loss right now, and it makes the most sense for him to take the loss. And the match was fun, for two ex-partners, you expect them to have some chemistry together, and I think they did. I think they put on a really good match, and in my opinion, the right person won. Not just the babyface one, but the right person won.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think, like you said, in terms of the feud, it extends it more here. If Luchasaurus wins, if Jungle Boy wins here, it's pretty much over. Even if you do the whole beatdown after, it just doesn't feel the same. Luchasaurus getting the win here, continuing his winning streak up until this point. Neither of them had lost since they had split up. Well, actually, I don't know why the fuck Excalibur said that. Jungle Boy lost to Christian at the pay-per-view. I don't know why Excalibur said that. So. That was weird. I guess he wasn't quote
because he's a
unquote
bad
counting
commentator.
it. Yeah,
Apparently, that's all I've learned.
maybe he wasn't counting it because it was full. Christian was full of shit that time. But either way, Jungle Boys up until this point, Jungle Boys only lost since they had split was to Christian, and Luchasaurus hasn't lost to anybody, even though he's been mostly doing squash matches, I think. But yeah, this was a really good match. It was very entertaining. Like I mentioned, the callback to Luchasaurus having Jack on his shoulders was really cool. And then that Rana, like I said, that Poison Rana was fucking pure filth. It was so good. And I did enjoy the way that Jungle Boy was just kind of subtly working the arm over. You didn't really notice it too much until you realize that Luchasaurus was selling it. And you're like, holy shit, yeah, he's been going after that arm the entire time, starting for when Luchasaurus went for that slap and hit the post. So just good match all around out of them. I imagine we're going to see another one as we wait for Christian to get healthy, because obviously this feud can't truly end until that happens. But I think for now it's the right direction, and we'll see where we go from here. Yep. All right, let's move on. We had Renee backstage with Stokely Hathaway, Ethan Page, and Jose the assistant. Stokely had just completed his purchase of Private Parties contracts from, I guess they're still the AFO, and Matt Hardy is pissed. Matt Hardy challenges Canada's own Ethan Page to a fight for the contract, but Page says that Private Parties should fight their own battles and challenges Isaiah to a match on Rampage. If Isaiah wins, they're free from the firm, but if Ethan wins, the firm not only gets to retain their contracts, they get Matt Hardy's as well. So that's going to be a little interesting storyline on Rampage this weekend.
I don't care about the firm, but Ethan Page should win, because then there's at least a story, right? Like,
it'd be cool. Yeah, like I know they want to do the Hardy Party thing, quote unquote, right, as Matt said, as they were hyping up the match, but
and the right way to do it is to have a story.
Yeah, right? Like them just getting back together without earning it, really. I mean, like, obviously Isaiah winning is earning it, but I feel like it would feel a lot more earned if Isaiah lost and then eventually they were able to win their freedom back, so to speak, later down the line. So, yeah, I agree with you, actually. Yeah, let's go Ethan Page. Plus, he's in Canada. Like, let him get a win.
Let him get a win, period. He never wins anything.
That's true. Yeah, they haven't done it. I'm glad he's doing something, because he hadn't done a whole lot in a while. Like, I know he's doing the Men of the Year stuff and all the Dan Lambert stuff, but it just didn't feel like he was kind of doing anything, and he's such a good talent. I'm glad he's just involved. Okay, after that, we had Warjo, which is Wardlow and Samoa Joe, versus QT Marshall and Nick Camarado of The Factory. QT talks some shit about Warjo's very creative tag team name before they come out. And quite frankly, the man had some points. And outside of like 2 seconds of Camarado getting in some offense, this match was just dominated by Wardlow and Samoa Joe. And it ended with Camarado getting put in the coquina clutch and choked out.
Can I make one comment before we talk about the post-match?
Please.
Fucking Tony or whoever was working the cameras, you fucking suck, dude. How are you gonna miss the best thing that Joe does, which is just walk away from splashes or jumps off the rope? Bro, they missed the shot. They're so bad at this.
Yeah, I know.
They have one job.
There was something to the outside with Wardlow and QT Marshall, which I know they were getting. Oh, excuse me, with Wardlow and Camarado before QT jumped. So I know they got the tail end of it, but they were trying to do both at the same time.
It was worse than that. Samoa Joe headbutted Camarado, and then he fell through the ropes. He turned around and just walked out of the way, but the camera had to get him slowly rolling out of the ropes, and they missed the coolest thing Joe does. Like, fuck, man, that really bothered me. But anyway, what happened after the match?
It is honestly one of my favorite things anybody does in wrestling. So yeah, I agree. I'm a little disappointed they missed it, but it is what it is. Yes, after the match, QT is experiencing a powerbomb symphony when the Embassy comes out, who I am actually liking in my very short experiences with them so far. Anyway, Brian Cage is pissed that Wardlow stuck their noses in Embassy business when they interfered with the FTR match, which I guess was on Battle for the Belts. I didn't know there was one. Yeah. So I'm guessing that the tag team whose name I'm blanking on, it's like the Gates of something. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, wrong one. I don't know.
James will tell me in the comments in a second. Hi, James. Hope you're feeling better. Yeah, so Cage is pissed that they stuck their nose in their business, and then he questions if FTR is even there tonight. And right on cue, FTR's music hits, and they come out to thunderous applause. Excuse me. Pretty sure Dax drops an F-bomb that they missed. He said "fuck it," I think. But anyway, he then says he can't ask Wardlow to work again Friday because they worked a full shift tonight. So FTR introduces their third partner because I guess they have a match against the Embassy on Rampage on Friday, which they kind of didn't mention. And their third partner was teased by Dax asking Cash what time Rampage starts on Friday, which would be 10. And Shawn Spears is back in AEW. So kind of cool to see him. They're billing them as the Pinnacle again, so that's still a thing. And yeah, I don't know. I like Shawn Spears. I'm glad he's back.
I like him too. Like, he's not really anybody, but I like him. Like, I don't care. Like, he's not someone they should be pushing or anything, but I like him, so I don't really mind. I would like.
They're not pushing him. They're not like to. But he's always a really
like,
fun guy to have around. He's always such
Canada,
a good piece.
Here you go.
Yeah.
I would have liked more between him and Wardlow. Like, they actually had a moment in the ring, but once again, the cameras were in a wide shot for some reason and not focusing on that. So like that felt like a lack of payoff there because Shawn was the only one in the Pinnacle besides MJF giving Wardlow a hard time. That was his accountability buddy, like that's that would have been nice to have something more than what we got, which was a shot in the distance. If you're paying attention to specifically those two
I didn't even
people,
notice it.
They looked at each other, they had a brief stare down, and I think they just shook hands and hugged. And like, I would have liked anything, especially commentary. Maybe if Excalibur was fucking paying attention instead of thinking of how to shit on teams that were better than his favorite teams, like he would have noticed these types of things. But whatever. None of this made sense. This match did not need to happen, but like it's all just fun pops. It's all like, oh, this is all a means to just have FTR come out and get a monster pop, and to have Shawn Spears come out and get the only monster pop he's gonna get for the rest of his career, I think, honestly. But enjoy it. It's fun for what it is. You can just have these fun moments sometimes. It literally didn't hurt anyone. So I'm all for it in this case.
Are you interested in the fact that the Pinnacle is again the Pinnacle despite MJF isn't there? We do have Eric in the comments asking about that.
Absolutely, especially if MJF is toying with the idea of being faced and everyone else in the Pinnacle is already faced. I think there's a bunch of interesting stories that could be there, especially that he's clearly starting to feud with the firm and he's gonna need backup. I don't know how he's gonna make amends with Wardlow, but they can turn that into an interesting story.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how the fuck he would bend fences with Wardlow. I don't know if that works. I do kind of find it interesting, though, and I agree with you. I wish they showed a little more of it, of the dynamic between Spears and Wardlow. And I guess Wardlow just kind of like, yeah, MJF's a prick. It's more his fault than yours. I'll not let it slide, but, we're cool. So hopefully we get a little more of that. I'm curious to see what they end up doing with the quote unquote Pinnacle back together. And yeah, if MJF shit happens, that's cool too. There's a lot they can do with these guys, even if it's just a loose alliance and they just help each other out on occasion.
Yeah,
I'm still really cool with that. Okay, after that, we had a backstage interview with Jericho in 2.0. Cool Hand Ange was very upset that Bryan Danielson made it personal when he poached Garcia, and Daddy Magic said it'll hurt Garcia more, or excuse me, hurt them more than it will hurt Garcia. Jericho then calls Garcia his little brother and says that Bryan made him hurt his little brother last week, to the point where Garcia hasn't returned his calls. He mentions again that sports entertainers will always beat wrestlers, to which Tony Schiavone goes, by systematically cheating, which is a great line. And Jericho's like, you could call it that if you want, but tonight he's Lionheart Chris Jericho, and he'll beat Bryan straight up. After that, we had probably Danny's favorite segment of the night, Daddy Ass Billy Gunn against Swerve Strickland. And obviously immediately going to you, rate Max Caster's rap this week.
Ooh, I would say it was like an 8.4 out of 10. It was just solid, quick. All the lines were delivered smoothly. There was no odd pauses for the flow to get back on pace. He tailored it specifically to Canada, which makes sense, and the crowd reacted nicely. The crowd did well too. They reacted to all the right lines, and yeah, this was a solid, very solid rap. Gotta make those Trudeau burns while you can.
I love that line. That was such a good fucking line.
Everyone's been waiting for AEW to go to Canada. And so is Max Caster, just for other reasons.
Honestly, you're right. That was one of his smoothest flows ever. Like, the dude's been on an absolute heater lately. And that was, I think, one of just his, like you said, his smoothest raps ever. I like the Austin Matthews line, too. That was a really good one as well. Taz, before the match started, as Billy Gunn is taking his shirt off, made a joke about Billy's been moving furniture lately, and that's why he's so jacked, referencing Corey Graves' line from the DX reunion on Monday Night Raw. I thought that was a great quip.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll say this now because before we actually talk about the match, but that was fine because Corey was saying that in good jest, saying, oh, I think he's doing something with office furniture now or whatever. His way of saying scissoring without getting in any trouble. But Billy Gunn is in so much better shape than all of DX combined, bro. The rest of them,
only one still wrestling by a lot.
Yeah. And to be fair, Triple H is in great shape, but the heart, stuff happened. Otherwise, he could still have a match. But Road Dogg and X-Pac are 15 years past being able to wrestle. And Sean is about 8, honestly. Like, that Saudi Arabia match was fucking
not great.
Embarrassing. If Goldberg Undertaker didn't happen, that would be one of the most embarrassing matches ever. Like, they're lucky that Goldberg Undertaker happens. But he is in so much better shape than all of them. Like, he would have looked out of place there because it would have been like, look at all these fucking old beaten down dads. And then you have daddy ass. There's a huge difference between being a dad and being a daddy. Okay, it is a fine, well sculpted line that Billy Gunn walks, and he is like The Rock in terms of being so much bigger now than when he was a wrestler, or like full-time wrestler. But he's not famous, so it's not as like notable of a fucking body transformation. But
you know who he looks like? He looks like Stallone in Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
But I think it's Rocky 6, I guess. Like when when they brought it back, like when all he does is like, yeah, you're too slow and you're old and you're like, the only thing you could do is just put on a fuck ton of muscle and hit this guy as hard as you can. That's what he looks like. Yeah. And quite frankly, guy could still put on a pretty good match. This was very entertaining.
I've always had a weird soft spot for Billy Gunn. I don't know why.
Yeah, because he's great. I love Billy too. So anyway, Swerve spent most of the match working over Billy's left leg. He eventually makes a small comeback and hit a sweet jackhammer, to which fucking Taz goes, Jackhammer Jones. They did the Jones joke a lot tonight. Not that I'm complaining, but I feel like without JR there, and Shivani's starting to get into it too, it's starting to become like the Taz and Excalibur show like it is on Dark. It's starting to get there. Anyway, after the jackhammer, Swerve avoided a famouser and regained the advantage. Swerve hits the Swerve Stomp, but Billy kicked out, which I thought was pretty surprising. Billy then went for a slam. Swerve countered, rolled up Billy, and he hooked the ropes, allowing him to pick up the 1-2-3 win. After the match, the Acclaim come back down to check on Daddy Ass, And when they go for the three-way scissor, they are interrupted by Smart Mark and Tony Nese. So for those of you who didn't see it on Reddit, I think that was either this morning or maybe yesterday, Smart Mark got the trademark to scissor me in America, and he now owns the phrase, the hand gesture, and he gets all the money from their merch. And honestly, I thought because they were in Canada that the Acclaimed were going to ignore him and do it anyway. But Smart Mark threatened them with a massive lawsuit if they do. And then he says, scissor me, daddy, niece, and they do the scissor thing. So that was awkwardly hilarious. But I don't know why we're getting this Smart Mark side feud. But maybe it's like just to give the Acclaim something to do while they try to figure out what the hell to do with Swerve and Keith Lee. Like, I'm so confused by it, yet it's oddly entertaining.
Yeah, I hate this on paper, but it's been good. But I don't like, because it just feels like what always happens is someone wins the title and then they feud with someone so far beneath them on the card. And in this case, a literal comedy act. You're John Blattner. Welcome. But that's like one of the problems with AEW is, okay, someone wins the title and then they feud with someone way beneath them. But because it's two plates spinning at once and they have this going here, but then they're clearly building to a rematch with Swerve and Lee, which will ultimately lead to Swerve turning heel, and there are things coming out of this. I'm okay with it. And I don't know, maybe we'll get like a fun 6-man tag with Tony Nese, Mark Sterling, and whoever the fuck else works for Mark Sterling versus the Acclaimed Daddy Ass, so that Billy Gunn just beats Mark Sterling in a match so he can win. Also, weird that they protected Billy Gunn in this, right? Like, couldn't Swerve have just won clean? I don't think anyone would have a problem with that.
Yeah, I was expecting it. I thought he won on the stomp. But I think, it just adds to the momentum of Swerve's heel turn.
I'm sure that is part of the intention, but I also think Billy Gunn is just weirdly protected in AEW. Because even Darby had to beat him with a roll-up. Yeah, that's true. But
I think they want the old guys to still feel, special, I guess. So, they protect them in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's having them be undefeated or having people cheat or use roll-ups to beat them.
Yeah, just thought that was a little odd, but because it's daddy ass, I'm not complaining too much about it. I just thought it was a little funny. But yeah, the Mark Sterling stuff, that has to end soon. I would like this to be over 3 weeks from now, otherwise I think it'll overstay its welcome. You just gotta, this has to play off at the same time as the rematch, and then everything moves on from there. And maybe Swerve joins them. I don't care at this point. Like, who cares anymore? But Acclaimed are so over. Got one of the loudest pops of the night. They got the loudest non-Canadian pop of the night, I think. And yeah, just Acclaimed every Wednesday, man. You love to see it.
I do want to point out, I think what's going on with Mark Sterling only works because it's Mark Sterling. If there's anybody else, I don't think it works. But that guy is just so good at that shtick that it makes it okay. Yeah,
all props to Mark Sterling. I'm not trying to take away anything from him when I say that they probably shouldn't be doing this, but he is great. Mark Sterling is fantastic.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to a backstage interview with MJF. They quickly did a package recapping what happened last week with Wheeler Yuta and the match, and then him getting jumped after, and Regal and everything. So after that, Marvez asks him about what happened with all of that. And before Max can answer, Stokely interrupts and says they caught Wheeler lacking last week, which I thought he should have said slacking or snapping. I don't know, but he said lacking. Anyway, MJF sarcastically goes, "Oh, hey, you're doing the, you come over and interrupt me in the backstage interview thing. Ha, everybody loves that except me." He then basically tells Stokely off, how he hates that he got involved last week in his business without him asking, and tells Stokely that if he ever does it again, Stokely will be fired. MJF then sends him away. Stokely looks pretty pissed off. And
he laughed as he was walking away, actually.
maybe a little bit, but maybe it was
No, a
just
lot. He literally looked away. He was like, and then walked off.
no. Maybe I missed that. Well, I guess I did. Anyway, MJF then goes into last week, saying that he's got a story about Regal that Regal doesn't want to be told. I imagine that's got maybe something to do with the Performance Center. Who knows? And then he says he doesn't know, even know if he was going to shake Wheeler's hand. But after some reassessing in the past week, he remembered that he has no choice but to be the bad guy, even if he doesn't like it when he wakes up. He actually gave I'm very much summarizing that because I thought this was one of his better promos, and I was more listening than writing. And then he says eventually he closes it by saying that he'll get the title by hook or by crook because he is a generational talent. He's got to get that in there nowadays. But for somebody who I think we've been saying has been leaning on those catchphrases for the past few weeks, this was one of his better promos. It was from somewhere that wasn't just the catchphrases or shitting on the crowd because he was backstage. It was, actually from him. Almost his heart, but he doesn't have one. So Dan, I really enjoyed this, and I think it lended a lot of character to MJF, and probably the most he has had since he's returned.
Yeah, absolutely. It humanized him, and it's always a fine line humanizing a villain, but he, explained without grave detail, but explained why he is a villain. He basically said, like, I don't have a choice but to be a villain. I learned the hard way that nice guys finish last, and I don't want to finish last anymore. So he's just pretty much told us he's being a bad guy because that's what he needs to do to get ahead. Not that that's what he wants to do, but what he feels he needs to do. And that's great. It's good. We have his character motivation. We have a fantastic promo. I still think the whole Stokely and the Firm thing has been dumb, but at least if it seems to serve a purpose now. But yeah, I still don't understand this guy's point in the company. But anyway, it's all heading towards a good place and an interesting place because I've been on the fence about MJF possibly turning face, and I like the fact that his character is on the fence about it. So I feel like we're in the same boat right now. So that'll make me more accepting towards it when it does happen, if it does happen. Because you never know with MJF. He could be like on the verge, getting us all behind him, and then just pull the rug out from under us again, But
he's got that chip too, man. That just lends itself to him being heel.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, this was one of his better promos, and it didn't need all the pomp and circumstances of other promos. Not that there's anything wrong with that in those cases, but yeah, I think this will go down as a low-key best promo of his, and it won't get as much credit as some of the other ones, but I agree. Fantastic promo. Big fan.
That's all I got. It was great, and I think we can just leave it there and move on. And we will move on to a in-ring interview with Jon Moxley given by Tony Schiavone. Tony introduces him and then asks Moxley about his title match with Hangman next week in Moxley's hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. Moxley says that it's very difficult being the champ, that it's a dirty, dirty job, and the champ doesn't have the luxury of being anxious, and that some self-destruct faster than others, to which the crowd laughed because, let's be realistic here, it was talking about CM Punk. But that actually brings him to Hangman, and upon mentioning his name, Hangman comes down to the ring. And Hangman says that whatever Mox has to say, Mox can say to his face, but realistically, Mox said everything he had to say last week, and that it actually meant a lot coming from him. Adam says that he respects the kind of man Mox is outside of the ring too, but that illusion was somewhat shattered last week when Mox called him a, quote, nice kid. So Paige asks Mox if that's what he actually thinks about him, and Mox says, yeah. Mox doesn't think that Hangman is the same guy who pushed him off off a ladder a year ago. He's not the same. He doesn't think he has the will, the drive, the killer instinct to take Mox out again and be champion. Hangman says it's true. That he isn't the same man. He lost his title. He lost when he went for the trios title with his best friends. He watched as a bunch of them were just randomly let go, and he's watched as his old friends have disappeared. I do believe referring to the Elite. So yeah, he is a different man. He's upset. He's angry. He's anxious, but he keeps coming back because he is a man. Now Hangman says all he has left is his shot and his word. Next week he'll be taking his shot. And tonight he gives his word that he will be the next AEW champion. And then they show fucking MJF up in the crowd, who has been sitting in the luxury box listening to all of this with the chip. And Hangman ends it by telling Moxley that he wanted to tell him all of that face-to-face, unlike MJF, and bumps Mox on his way out of the ring. So another good promo. Back-to-back, just great promos. I think this was a really good response from Hangman. I know a couple of the guys on the pod last week felt like Hangman kind of got sunned last week. And I guess in retrospect, he kind of did, considering what Mox said tonight. But Hangman definitely got all of that back with this promo.
Oh my God. Can I just say, I loved this. I thought this was so good for so many ways. The only real critique I have is on the crowd at the end, because when Hangman finished this promo, they were just chatting MJF, and I'm like, you're kind of missing the point, I guess. But this was so good from start to finish. The jab at CM Punk, I don't care. I love CM Punk. I still would welcome him back, honestly. But yeah, fuck yeah, take that jab. Absolutely. Good shit. Honestly, by Mox.
I know it's a jab, but like it reads as a jab to Punk, but I almost felt like it was more of a jab at Hangman, like in kayfabe. And I guess it kind of serves a dual purpose.
I think it's 100% a jab at Punk that he's saying because it works towards Hangman. So
yeah, bit of both.
Like it's I think it was more reverse engineered into the feud, but I loved what Moxley said. I loved that the second he transitioned to Hangman music hits and he comes out immediately. Badass move there. I love that he stuck his hand out for Moxley to hand him the mic. I think that was such a nice touch. He didn't get his own mic. He wanted that mic. He put his hand out and Mox gave it to him. I loved that little detail. Maybe one of my favorite small details definitely of the whole show, but just in a long time for this company. Great touch right there. And then, saying he respects him as a person, as a champion, this and that. Great stuff. Honestly, where was this Hangman? When he was champ, like where was this guy? Part of me wants him to win. Like part of me, I don't care who wins next week. But I kind of would be, if it wasn't for all the title changes that have happened, all the mess around the world title, that's the only reason I think it would be bad for him to win. Otherwise, I don't think it would be bad for him to win. Especially, or I just wish this feud was longer. I wish this was building to Full Gear, and we have to do the MJF match, but like this feels like they've waited so long for this. It deserves more than the 3 weeks it's getting. Like it deserves a nice long story. But this was really good. Besides, like Eric said, Hangman trying to make himself bleed and fail. Because he's not Mox. He can't just bleed on the spot like that, you know?
I didn't think he was trying to actually make himself bleed. I thought he was just punching himself in the head for the effect of it. If he wanted to make himself bleed, he would have done the Vince McMahon thing where he cut himself and then sealed it really easily and then bopped it back open.
Yeah, but then when he said, I wanted, all I have is a shot and my word, and next week I'm going to have my shot, and tonight I give you my word. He wiped his head to wipe on Mox's jacket. You wouldn't do that if you weren't trying to bleed in that scenario, because otherwise, like, you just wiping sweat on him, and that's kind of weird.
This is what happens when I'm on the road and I have a way smaller TV. I miss all these little subtle things. I'm watching on like a 32-inch instead of my like 60-inch TV at home. A little off my game tonight, everybody. My apologies.
But yeah,
that's what Danny's here for.
This got me way more because I wasn't hyped for this at all, honestly, until this week. Like this genuinely has me hyped for it, which is like tough considering Dynamite's on a Tuesday next week. So it already feels less special automatically. But we'll see. This fantastic segment. I could not have asked for much more between these two or these three. Even MJF did his little part. I mean, he had to run up there pretty quickly, after his interview. So, good on him. Get your cardio in.
Well, pre-tapes, but yeah.
No, he ran. He ran.
Ruin the illusion. But yeah, I'm very, very hyped for this match. I mean, I was already excited for this match next week, but I think it added a lot more gravitas to it. A lot more weight to it. So I'm hyped. Like you said, I always want Hangman to win, but I almost want him to beat Moxley now. Like I really do. Plus, maybe Moxley will finally get to go on that vacation. So I hilariously, I'd be cool either way. Now, I would like to bring in what Eric said in the chat. Do you think MJF cashes in on Tuesday?
Tuesday is as good a time as any, right? If they're doing it like a cash in, like a Money in the Bank, 100% it's going to happen Tuesday. I just don't know if that's really truly how they're doing it, because they keep saying it so that if they wanted to, they could do it like that, but they're not saying that it's working like that. So I could see them doing it, because otherwise, when is he going to do it? There's no bigger match you can follow because there's no one bigger. That's the thing, right? Where there's no one bigger for Mox to face after Hangman than MJF. There's no one else. He can't face
Who's
Brian.
Not suspended. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone else is either suspended or a chump, or who knows? Hey, maybe Hangman wins and then he cashes on Hangman, and that would be fun, because then you have Mox go on vacation, MJF can feud with Hangman, and then somehow, some way, Stokely and the Jobber Brigade get involved, and I don't know. There's a lot. Oh my god, I don't like the idea of MJF losing because of Stokely, because again, this guy shouldn't be affecting the main event. That's just should be illegal, I think, right? Like someone should get thrown away for that. Someone should get locked up for that. I don't know, but
I have mentioned Tony Khan, excuse me. He does seem to really, really like Stokely. So I'm not saying that means he's going to be, involved in the main event picture. Obviously not title wise, just interfering, but it's totally plausible in my opinion.
I hate it.
I'm not saying I like it either. I'm just saying it's plausible. And I understand MJF being a heel. They'll probably be involved in some way, shape, or form, perhaps before the cash-in, just as a beatdown option. But yeah, them turning on him would be kind of whack, at least in this shorter term. Like they just got there, and MJF just got back, and I know he's getting all these face pops, but I'm not entirely sure I'm ready for face MJF, and quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure you're going to get one while he's holding that chip, because it just lends itself to him being a heel the same way the Money in the Bank contract always does. Obviously you get the faces who win it occasionally, but they work better when heels have them, because they can take advantage of injured people, injured faces, and win titles. So I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I don't think we're going to get MJF face MJF for at least a little while. And as for Tuesday, man, I don't know. It would feel kind of weird that they would do it on a day where Dynamite's not on Wednesday, right? Like they're getting bumped for, I don't know if it's the NBA or the MLB playoffs, which I guess are still on, or whatever.
Are
but
they? What?
I haven't watched a second. But
go Guardians, I guess.
I'm rooting for the Mariners, even though that went poorly.
Either way, yeah. I'm fine with the half of the AL winning. Go Mariners or Guardians. And that's it. I hope everyone else loses simultaneously.
Yeah. Also, Eric, actually, with a decent point in chat, MJF beating two of the biggest faces and then them making him face just doesn't make sense. So
does it not though?
I don't think it does. At least not that quickly.
Who else do you have because then you have no other faces to go against them. But I think ultimately, and I'm not going to take credit for this, but I'm not going to give credit to the place I heard it because fuck them. Even though I like them, I just don't want to give credit to other people who talk about wrestling because I don't think they exist. But I've seen it multiple places that you have MJF win the title and, do whatever you want in the meantime. But as 2024 approaches, the story just becomes, we need to get the title off this guy before he obviously leaves to go to WWE. So then you have everyone trying to beat him and to rescue the title before he goes to WWE. Not that he actually will, but that'll be the story, whether he goes or not. So he's the champion. And then they once again pull his contract into it. And as that grows closer, there's more and more panic of people trying to get the title off of him so he can't leave with it. And I think that's a story they can do, but that's a long ways away if they're going to have him cash in so early. But then again, after having the title hot potato so many times, you can have a year-long title reign, and that's totally fine.
I mean, what was Kenny's, like 400 some odd days? Like, they do long title reigns.
He did not get to a year. I think he was like 320 or something.
Okay, cool.
No, he was like 340. He was close to a year. He was like a couple weeks short of a year.
Okay, maybe I thought somebody had like a 400-day reign. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm just thinking of Roman. But yeah, they do tend to leave the titles on people for like around a year anyway. So you're right, it would be a little early. Now, I feel like we've had that exact same discussion, but before the chip, but it was with CM Punk being the savior for AEW, trying to prevent the title going to WWE with MJF and putting him in the Cena role from 2011. But now, who knows? We don't know if we don't know if Punk is coming back. I saw on Reddit, I think this was courtesy of James, that Ace Steel privately tweeted out the Aretha Franklin Freedom bit from fucking Blues Brothers. So, I mean, that lends itself to reason that he's been released. So who knows about Punk after this, but we'll see. He would have been the prime candidate, I think, but if for that storyline, but if he's not around, who knows who they pick? Who knows? Shit, maybe turn Jericho face and do it with him. All right, let's move on though. And speaking of Chris Jericho, he fought Bryan Danielson for the Ring of Honor World Championship. They had a video package beforehand, which included a lot of clips from Bryan back in his Ring of Honor days, which I thought was really cool. And finally, Tony was able to really use some of that footage that he paid all that money for. Also before the match, Jericho had Judas start, and before the lyrics started, his Lionheart theme hit, which I thought was a cool touch. The crowd was a little upset, but then they sang Judas the whole first 5 minutes of the match anyway, so I think they'll be okay. And also, holy shit, we got a Kevin Steen name drop. I thought that was cool. All right, anyway, to start the match, Jericho put out his hand for the Code of Honor, but Bryan kicked it away and went for an early roll-up that Jericho kicked out of. And for most of this match, it was very even. There was a lot of back and forth. No guy could either really get the upper hand until Bryan gets in the label lock, but Jericho escapes and he gets in the walls. Bryan then gets out of that as well, and he puts on the walls himself to many a boos. And Jericho was pretty face here, obviously, in Canada, him returning for the first time. I think they said 5 years, which is such a long time. It's crazy to think about, but yeah, they were definitely behind Jericho, upsetting some of the members of the podcast here who were very, very big Bryan Danielson fans. But anyway, Bryan rolls Jericho out of the walls and starts hitting the hammer and anvil elbows. But Jericho catches them and lifts Bryan to basically just hit an AA. He did an attitude adjustment, and it was fine. Bryan eventually was hit 2 flying knees off the top rope, but Jericho catches him with a code breaker after Bryan goes for the third one, goes to the pin, and Bryan kicks out. And then Jericho and Bryan are both hitting the ropes, and Jericho pushes Bryan into the referee, knocking him out of the ring. Daddy Magic, who was at ringside along with Cool Hand Ange for the match, went over to the timekeepers area. I almost want to say I always want to say scores table from basketball. The timekeepers area to grab the belt and tosses it to Jericho. But as Jericho is waiting for Bryan to stand up, Daniel Garcia comes in and takes the belt from him. Garcia then starts arguing with Jericho, pushes him, and Bryan hits his Busaiku knee. But after Bryan gets up from that, Garcia decks Bryan with the title. Cool Hand Ange throws the ref back into the ring. Jericho calls into the pin and retains the Ring of Honor World Championship. The JAS all hug after the match, signifying that Garcia is apparently sticking with Jericho. And Regal, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta come down to the ring, and the JAS clear out. So, as we mentioned earlier, Danny, a lot of disappointment in this match. We all were pulling for Bryan. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with Daniel Garcia. And I guess obviously we're going to continue this, Ring of Jericho phase, but I still just don't understand why it was Bryan first. And I don't understand what's going on with Garcia.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to try to keep this short, but I didn't watch this match because I knew Bryan was going to lose.
Oh, right.
So sick of watching Bryan lose.
I forgot to ask, how much of your room did you end up cleaning? That's how I was going to start the segment. I forgot.
Not much. I had a lot of stuff on this chair, and it's all gone now, so I did that.
At least you got a little bit done.
And then Grayson is still in my room somewhere. Grayson was laying on my chest, so I just was petting her. But I'm just sick of it. I can't watch, this show was honestly almost perfect for me. There was nothing I actively disliked besides this. I can't keep watching Bryan lose, man. I wish he wasn't there anymore. There's no point. I don't like it anymore. He just keeps losing. He's not won a big match. He's lost to Chris Jericho fucking twice. 85-year-old Chris Jericho. It's depressing. He has nothing. They couldn't put him in the AEW Hall of Fame because he's done nothing impressive there at all. They would have to use his outside credentials. He hasn't done anything inside the company to earn
the most impressive thing I feel like he's done is he's tied both Hangman and Omega.
Yeah.
And then I guess he did beat Hangman and Omega on the way to the finals of the championship, but he lost to Hangman and he's lost to Jericho 3 times now, as you mentioned. So
and he's lost to Moxley twice.
Yep.
It's too much. It's too many losses. They're using him the same way WWE did after his comeback. This shit is so simple and they're just blowing it. They're really not treating him like he wasn't the second coming of Punk. He wasn't the second guy to get so insanely over that the crowd had to dictate who was going to be a top guy and who was going to be a champion. I don't care. The Garcia stuff was dumb. I don't care. Ultimately, I'm so sick of the Blackpool Combat Club and the Jericho Appreciation Society interaction. I remember I was the one championing this 5 months ago before it happened. I was like, oh, they're going to be separate for a bit and eventually they're going to come together and it's going to be great. But in that case, I thought, the wrestlers would win and it wouldn't just be the fucking sports entertainers winning over and over and over again. This is pointless. And
should have ended with blood and guts.
Yeah, which is for some reason how it fucking started. And it's just so bad. It's been so downhill. And Jericho's still doing great work. The Ocho stuff is funny. It works. The Ring of Jericho stuff works. Just why does he have to keep beating Bryan? Why can't Bryan win a fucking big match? I'm so I can't even watch because what was the point? I don't care if the match was good or not because I knew no matter what, Bryan wasn't winning tonight. Why would I sit through it? I wouldn't have sat through the Orange Cassidy Pac match if I didn't know Cassidy was going to win since it was main eventing and since Bryan had already lost and they were in Canada. Otherwise I wouldn't watch that match either because I'm so sick of that shit. I'm not watching these matches where I don't trust fucking the company to do the right thing or to do a satisfying thing. And the Garcia shit is dumb. whether it's because he wants to be the guy to beat Jericho, like Eric said, or maybe it's because he accidentally gave Brian the advantage and he wanted to even the playing field. I don't know. Maybe he was just conflicted overall. Maybe it's because him and Brian, he realized, oh, I talked with Brian 1 week and I fucking lost. So maybe I shouldn't be idolizing this guy. Because even that story only works because Garcia knows Brian's history. If he looks at him in AEW, it's like, this guy's a fucking loser. Why would I idolize him? Why would I want to learn anything from him? And also, it's nice that the Combat Club were at least out there this fucking time. Like, it's nice to actually see them because they never are there with Brian, like James has pointed out for the past 4 weeks. Fuck this shit, man. I'm sick of it. I didn't want to talk about it for that long, but it's bumming me out. Like, it genuinely is bumming me out.
I kind of figured you were going to anyway, and you're not wrong. Like, I'm going to echo something James mentioned to us earlier tonight. Brian needs to be a little more selfish occasionally. Like, I understand he's back now, and he's not only willing to work with younger guys, but help put them over. And that's all well and good. And I think it's a great thing. And, good on him for being, willing to do that. A lot of guys aren't. But my guy, you're Bryan Danielson. You got to fucking win some matches. I understand, like, doing this job for Jericho helps further this story. But you shouldn't be losing to Chris fucking Jericho 3 out of 4 times. Like, come on. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they're doing something here where, like, Brian just can't get over the hump in AEW, and that's going to be a storyline at some point. But nobody wants to fucking see that with Bryan Danielson. We wanted to see him come out, be the best, one of, if not the best wrestler in the world, and kick some fucking ass. We didn't necessarily need him having titles or shit. We just wanted cool feuds and cool matches like we got with him and Omega. So I don't know why this keeps happening. I don't understand why maybe Tony Khan just doesn't step in and be like, no, dude, we need you to fucking win a high profile match here. Like, you're losing all of them. It's getting, ludicrous. So they got to do something with this, man. And again, I wish he was like the final boss of this Ring of Jericho shit and not the first victim, because it would have been a lot cooler if this was all building to that, facing guys like Christopher Daniels and stuff and Jay Lethal, than Jericho starting this by beating him. Because I mean, I guess kind of started by beating Claudio, but he starting this by beating Brian, and I don't know how it ends because some Ring of Honor guys got to take the title back. And once again, Punk's not there, so it's going to have to be somebody else.
Like, real quick, if I could ask, I'll ask you, but also James, who's chirping back in our chats, because he said all the matches have been great, but he needs titles and wins. Have they? Like, have they really been that great? When was the last one that was that memorable?
I enjoyed the Garcia matches, especially the 2 out of 3 falls one. I really enjoyed that.
I've already said my piece on why that psychologically didn't make a lot of sense, but like, in terms of the in-ring work, yeah, but like, he hasn't had the match we've been expecting since the Omega match, and I think a lot of that is because a lot of it has no substance to it. A lot of it.
No, neither of the Hangman matches for you.
The first one, yeah. The second one was just not as good. Like,
the second one was definitely not as good. The first one, the tie though, I thought was great. And but how not only, I don't want to say bad, but how odd is it that his 2 best matches in AEW were draws?
Yeah, because they didn't want to beat Kenny when he was a champion, and I get that. But yeah, the second draw, it makes sense, and that's something he always wanted to do. Is go to a 60-minute draw. He's been dying to do that in WWE. They wouldn't let him do it, but bro, like, none of these matches were better than the triple threat at Mania with Tim Edge and Roman, besides the Omega match and the 60-minute draw. Like, the 2 out of 3 falls match wasn't. That match, again, to me and to Eric, didn't make sense psychologically. But like, the Mox matches are good, but they're not like.
I was gonna say the first one was really good.
I hated that one because the finish was bad. It ruined the rest of the match for me. Because again, it's tough, and also it's biased because it's hard for me to get past some of these losses. But I think there's just so much missed potential with Brian. And like, I'm just not going to watch these matches when it's like, oh, he's not going to win. So why the fuck should I care? And like, I'm not going to sit through that anymore. And like, I'm annoyed that the company has gotten me to this point because I didn't think they ever would. Like, that's some WWE show where I'm like, because I used to do that with certain Brian matches too. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to watch because I think he's going to lose. But I'm just bummed about it. There's no saving this anytime soon for me. They're going to have to like do some revamping for me personally to save. How sad is it that I need them to save fucking Brian's career? Like, it's ridiculous.
I'm not going to say career, but perhaps
his AEW career.
His time in AEW. Yeah, I was going to say his career's fine. As for the Garcia thing, I don't understand what the point is. I don't know if he's going to be the one to want to be the one to beat Jericho. I frankly thought that he wasn't going to join either side, and it was just going to be no, fuck all of you. I'm going to be my own person. But he's back with JS. I don't understand why we just did 3 weeks worth of that shit for him to, return to the status quo of thing. It made no sense, and we'll see where it goes, if anywhere. But it was kind of lame and a cop out. It was like, yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was a fucking cop out.
It was just dumb.
Yeah. All right. Let's everybody take a deep breath. Calm down. It'll be okay. Bryan Danielson still kicks ass as a wrestler. All right. Moving on, we had a backstage interview with Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero, and I think there was Marina Shafir with them. Yes, it was. Okay. So as we mentioned earlier, guess Nyla stole the TBS championship from Jade. Perhaps on Battle of the Belts or for the Belts, whatever the hell it is, because she has the title and she's claiming to be the champion. So, okay. Anyway, Anna Jay comes over and challenges Nyla to a match on Rampage, which Nyla accepts. And I guess I should have watched Battle for the Belts because now I'm just confused.
I don't know. This promo made me chuckle, but otherwise, who cares?
Honestly, I will say that the one thing I really did like about this promo, despite my utter confusion, was I feel like this is the first time we kind of got to see Twitter Nyla on screen, because Twitter Nyla is fucking hilarious. And not just her feud with Serpentico either. Like, she's really fucking funny. She did a thread of AEW wrestlers as cars a few weeks ago, and I could not stop laughing. So as she gets to be funnier and use that good wordplay like she did tonight more often, I think she will be a lot better off in AEW, just in general, because I think that personality for her just is amazing. So hopefully we get more of that. And after that promo, we had Jamie Hayter and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Hikaru Shida and Toni Storm. Another huge pop for Jamie Hayter. This woman is so over, it's unbelievable. Shida got a good one too. I'm glad she did. This match was pretty much everything the women's matches have become lately. It's consistently good wrestling, nothing too crazy, and the crowd's trying to give it some energy, which I can't necessarily complain about. I would like more out of them, obviously, but
they're putting the dead spot again. Like, between the two big title matches.
Exactly. Yeah, they're always in the death spot, and not just between the two big matches, just always at fucking 9:40 every single time. They're just doing these tags that kind of like don't mean anything, for the grand scheme of things. It's nice to see these people. Like, it's great to see Shida back. She has 2 fucking titles from Japan, which is awesome. But it's like, okay, I just like Shida having titles. I love her, so I'm glad she's doing well, even if it's not in AEW. But it's just it's kind of just, it is what it is. Like, like I said earlier, this is the status quo for the women's division, and okay. And it ended with Shida pinned Britt after she countered a roll through of a roll through of a roll through, which was actually a pretty cool sequence, but she had the double roll through to get the pin.
So I will say there's one low-key positive out of this whole thing, and it was that Jamie got her own entrance as opposed to coming out to Britt's music, which is good because I didn't even know she had entrance music because,
Yeah, she got it last week when they were in the 6-woman tag. because Britt wasn't in it because she was still recovering from the nose. But yeah, her music is good too.
Her coming out without like them coming out one at a time as opposed to together, very important. Minor detail. Big fan of that. Other than that, this sucked. Not because the wrestling sucked, because wrestling didn't suck. It was good. But kind of like Eric said, what was the point of any of this? It's the same thing every week with the women.
No, I know.
And also, okay, it is cool that Shida has won titles. It is bad that they're on AEW television. There are too many titles being brought in, and just seeing her come out with 2 more titles where it's like, it's the same thing like Nyla having the TBS title. It's like, where did this fucking come from? Why is this happening? She deserves those titles, but they shouldn't be on television. There's too many. Okay, like imagine you went to Grand Slam with a casual fan because you just needed someone to go with. And then every match they're like, oh, this is a title match? Like, and they're like, yeah, but it's this title. And it's like, what's the difference between the All Atlantic title, the ROH title, the fucking like TBS title? Aren't these all titles? How are they, which one's the main one? You know, like it's ridiculous. There's too many. And more importantly, again, I'm not trying to shit on Shida. She was great, but like, why did she win the match? Like, what? This is like the 3rd time that Tony's been in a tag match as the interim champion and either gotten pinned or her teammate picks up the win instead of her.
Willow won last week for the team, and now Shida this week.
Like, just have her win if you're gonna do that. Don't waste a pin on Britt, on Shida, unless sure maybe they're gonna build to Shida Tony, and that's cool because you could have Tony beat all the people that fucking are former champs or whatever. But I'd rather have her beat Britt in a 1-on-1 because Britt's the fucking star. Where Shida's great. Again, I'm not trying to say any of these things against Shida, but you know, she was not presented on the same. She's not on the same level as Britt. She's not presented on the same level as Britt.
Well, she's also never fucking there, so it's hard for her to be presented on the same level as Britt.
But this just didn't make sense to me. Just either Shida should have been there to take the pin, or just have. I don't know. There's no version of this that I thought makes perfect sense, but I hate this. And hold on, I gotta read what James said. I'd only agree to any if they were defended. It's world building. The idea there's a whole world of wrestling out there. These competitors are winning around the world. Yeah, but there's 100,000 titles in the company. It doesn't matter if they're from other companies now because there are the ROH titles are there that are defended in the company. So you don't need the world building of these other titles from other companies because there's just too many. And then everyone looks worse because everyone has a title. It's literally like, oh, you get a title, you get a title, and you get a title. And that's what ROH has become. ROH has become, we're giving titles to the people we didn't have room for with our main titles. We don't want to give them those titles. So you could have these. And then they made the All-Atlantic title because they needed to give Pac a title. And now that title's been saved, luckily, but still, like, that doesn't mean its inception didn't come from a bad place. Like, you should not have every single match have someone walking out with the title. That just become meaningless at that point. I'm not as quick to write titles off as meaningless, but like for more than half your roster of champions. Like,
I get what you're saying. Like the more there are, they start to diminish in value. And I kind of agree to an extent. I think this wouldn't be as much of a problem if the Ring of Honor titles weren't there, or at least not there and defended on a consistent basis. You know what I mean? Because then it would just be like some of the other promotions that randomly popped in. You know, Shida having these 2 belts, I don't think is that big of a problem, but in a vacuum. But then obviously you have FTRs walking around, you know, with 3 sets of titles, and Samoa Joe's a champ and Wardlow's a champ, and they're tagging together. And now all of these guys are on a team, and there's fucking the 3, 6, 8 belts between 4 guys. I kind of see what you're saying. You know, Jericho's got the Ring of Honor title, and fucking Garcia's next to him with the Pure Championship. There's a title in like every segment, and you do hit a point of diminishing returns. You know, like I'm sure I could go through this whole fucking thing, and we'd probably have a title in almost every segment. You know, or at least the majority of them. Obviously, the opening match didn't have one, and neither did the Stokely, Ethan Page, Matt Hardy thing. But then, Wardlow versus the Factory, like I said, you have 8 titles. Jericho's thing has the titles. Daddy Ass segment, because the Acclaimed are there, has titles. MJF has the chip, which is good enough. Moxley and Hangman title. Jericho Danielson for a title. Nyla Rose title. This had 3 titles, and then you have the Orange Cassidy pack match with a title. That's a lot of fucking championship belts in one show. So I do get what you're saying, and I understand James's point too. I do like the world building. I like to see the cooperation between the companies, but yeah, we're at a point of diminishing returns with them. We just are, and they tend to just kind of lose their luster when and I know it's not just AEW titles, but just generally a title belt in general loses its luster when there's
and
fucking
the world's already built. Like, you had Forbidden Door. There's no need for this anymore.
Yeah, and people come in from Impact. Kenny was fucking carrying around the Impact Championship and the AAA Championship.
You know what? I'm starting to think it's better that he didn't always carry all the titles with him. He only pick and choose what times to bring in all 3 titles. Like
4.
4. Sorry. See, because he never had all of them with them.
Yeah. He did occasionally, but usually not.
Yeah, exactly. When it's the time's right. But like, if he's just doing a quick promo, yeah, just bring the important one, But anyway, that's rant. Eric, you're on drugs, dude, and that's fine. Drugs are cool, but like, I can't tell you what Sheeta's merch looks like. There's no way that's true. Like, in what world? I just was at a show. I can tell you how many Sheeta. Yeah, but no one has her merch. I've never seen someone in a Sheeta shirt at a show that I've been to.
When the Scissor Me Daddy shirt, I think it was, went to number 1 on AEWshop.com, I was scrolling through it, and she had 2 in the top 10. So,
because blows my mind.
Yeah, she just put out some really nice Halloween merch. So I think that's probably what Eric is referring to. Just one last note on the titles, just to drive home the diminishing returns point. And honestly, it's going to become a drinking game where drink every time I say diminishing returns. It reminds me a lot of boxing. After, there was just the one title, and then now there's 5 heavyweight championships, and it's just no one gives a shit about boxing anymore. As opposed to when Ali and Frazier and Foreman were fighting, you get to that point when you have too many titles, and you don't want that. So, yeah, I like the idea, but there's too much on this show in general, and it's unfortunate. And I think that'll get fixed when Ring of Honor actually gets its own show. I think a lot of these titles will end up over there, and we won't see them nearly as often. So that'll make things easier. But yeah, you got. As we have so many AEW titles now too. You throw in the Ring of Honor ones, you throw in the extra ones, FTR, and now Sheeter are carrying around. It's a lot. All right, that pretty much wraps up the show. I think the only thing that was left was the quick promo from Butcher and the Blade. They're fighting Claudio and Mox on Rampage because they got involved in their shit last week. So yeah, that should actually be cool. I think that'll be pretty hard hitting match. But all right, so Danny, overall for the show tonight. I know Brian lost, but you didn't watch that. You cleaned your room and played with your cat. So I would imagine, minus that, this felt like a really good show, and I'm not surprised considering they were in Canada for the first time and they needed to, bring out some of the bigger guns.
Yeah. Overall, fantastic show. Honestly, near perfect for me. It gets dragged down way further down. This would have been like, if I was giving a percentage, I'd probably give the show like a 94%, but because of the Brian thing, I would say an 83. And that's still being generous because I think it's bad that they did that. But anyway, yeah, they went all out for Canada. They gave them a good show that would entice the crowd to come back if they went there again. There was no Bray Wyatt debut or anything, but still really good, fun show overall. Very fun. And we ended on 2 downers, but all the stuff before that we talked about was fantastic.
Yeah.
And the main event we opened with, so the show ended on a great note.
Yeah, I was going to say the show did end on a great note. Orange Cassidy winning the title was amazing. I thought we got some of our better promos that we've seen in a long time from
Yeah.
MJF, Hangman, and Mox. So I think we got a whole lot of good shit out of this show, except the one clunker at the time, at 9:00. So that aside, I was very happy with this show. The Canadian crowd was very good. I hope no one played Drink Every Time they say standing room only during that, because there's no way you're awake for this right now.
Oh, actually, real quick, can I give a quick prop to the crowd during the when Christian came down to the ring during the Luchasaurus Jungle Boy match? They chanted "Edge is better" at him.
Yeah,
and it was hilarious.
that was a good one. They were chanting something
he's
at
not,
Brian
but like
too.
it's funny,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, but yeah, with the Brian.
They were chanting something at Brian. Like, I don't know if it was a bunch of guys in the front row, but I couldn't pick it up. But it looked pretty funny, and Brian was playing into it pretty well. So yeah, good for that crowd. It sounded packed. It sounded loud. They were into every match, even not even the women's one, but including the women's one that I pointed out specifically because of the conversation we had earlier. So good for Canada. I hope they go back, and I hope that we continue to get shows like this, because this, it's been, I think now 4 weeks, maybe 5 since, All Out and everything that happened. And I think AEW has just been putting out some pretty consistently, good shows, good to great shows. So considering all the turmoil that's been happening backstage, the product itself hasn't seemed to suffer too much, despite what certain journalists might have you believe. But I think that wraps things up for us here. That was terrible. I'm on the road. I'm all thrown off. I wasn't even supposed to be here today. So, but anyway, yeah, we're done. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. We are, like I said, way over few over 400 subscribers, and we want to thank every one of you. And please continue to join us. James will do his rap, and I'm sure Danny will think up more punishments for him as we continue to get more subscribers. Gifts for the audience. Check out all our social media stuff. I'll drop it in the description below, and then check out our podcast that comes out later this week. Not only do we have that, we will be here next Tuesday for Dynamite. And Danny, you doing a Raw fast forward on Monday?
Probably, yeah.
Yep. All right, cool. James does Thursdays for Impact, although I don't think he will be able to this week. Again, James, we hope you feel better. And yeah, so just a lot of good shit on the channel. So just be sure to subscribe and you'll be able to check it all out. So on that note, for Daniel Hernandez, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching and putting up with my road game this week. And we will see you next time here on the Mark It Down podcast.